I put my foot back in the stirrup and none of you moved, so I got louder. I'm bad at authoritarian leadership, I said, but I need you guys to bear with me. So the new guy, completely out of turn, Sergey, who I hadn't met yet, yells, "You are Bear?" I said, "Bear with me means patience with my compulsions." Sergey whined, "Compulsions?" So I portrayed the emotion of having strong beliefs that drive me. Then, as you all might remember, riding off, Mikhail yells, "Stop!" So I stopped. And you said, "You understand, Soviets aren't driven mad American capitalists." So I said, "Exactly, Mikhail, sit and enjoy." I tried compromise. I knew and said a successful meal might tease out an idea or two, or at least you'll reason anyone who doesn't work today is fired. Now I'm still not introduced to this new guy who taunts, "You have no customers?" Remember, I'm warming up, doing laps. I said I hoped all of you stay for breakfast. I don't have time to talk anymore. I said we're independent in a huge marketplace. Sergey quacks he won't be paid Friday, so I said the custom in America is to withhold their first paycheck. Anyway, we were lucky I didn't have much experience paying by the month. Then Sergey says he was told we're all partners, but he's special. To bring business, he deserves better deal. I said from the salesman's 10%, you'd make more than all of us. Then you were suspicious and said you'd see how being messenger goes. I knew I'd always fight over customers with you. So I stared at y'all eating, not really wanting to go by myself. But I said, don't be in a hurry. I'll go hungry till I find clients. I remembered that gang near the church and said, by their haircuts, a right-wing football club, surely in no hurry to run their own errands. Nonviolent work might be beneath them. I told you guys, opportunity is everywhere. Hank made such a deal out of symbolic gestures. Our first client had to come lickety-split. Eventually, we covered the square kilometer as a team, but except for Nibbles, Hank was further in the hole because he wanted our own lock on the door from our first client, the locksmith, who let us know if he ever had a package he wanted carried. Hank said, no more favors. Presents substituting for money. We're in business, period. Now I am almost starting from scratch. So technically, early on, Hank made no sense business-wise. As early as the next day, when we were all hanging around the office talking business, he was waiting on messages, passed gratis for our new tattooed clients. Hank only agreed to be involved pro bono with the gang war to not take violent sides. Then, 6 p.m., Hank answered the phone and laughed. Done. Both teams went drinking, so maybe it'll start later. And neither appreciated my rewording their messages. Seemed I contradicted my advertised promise not to look in envelopes. Hank smiled. I can't carry those clients. This business landscape has landmines all across. At least I can try to avoid what I see. But much of what worried him seemed just conjecture. Once, Hank said, remember Brezhnev's daughter? I decided to look at her legal scrape in the library. It would have been a miracle if she hadn't been blinded by the sparkle of diamonds. Really, she was just guilty for being used for the crown on her head. She must have left hundreds of entrepreneurs in her wake. I'm sure, still tweaking their dastardly mustaches over the damsel in distress they allowed left and run over by the political train of retribution, just to grab for and let go of peg on the teetering hierarchy. It was Daddy's fault. Poor little privileged rich girl had no other choice but to go and play with the circus for amusing entertainment. She should have just fought for her Moscow discotheque, something to symbolically crack Daddy's stone-faced personality charade, reflect that grin of his in a different light. Even now here, a decade later, activity, if any, is slow, when it should be go, go, go. Hank's hit-and-miss windbag business lectures filled time. A moniker we might all fit, but especially him, if the hammer and cycle wasn't a beautiful idea. So he was never off his kick of celebrating ideals, bouncing in, claiming one day to have insight of staggering proportions that'll boost us over 20 runs a day. Though we were always hearing the next big one, I still laughed with Sergey because his ideas only got bigger tomorrow. Hank said, I'm not joking, it's beautiful. Once I got to see what's been controversial, thought the most famous silly piece of art in the world. Sergey loved showing off that he had outside knowledge. He said, you are stealing the bicycle wheel from the Philadelphia Museum of Art permanent collection? Hank was stunned. Sergey, how did you know it's the wheel on the chair by Marcel Duchamp I saw on loan to the Museum of Modern Art in New York City from Philadelphia? Sergey said, modern art plus your one-track mind equals Duchamp's most famous useless ready-made. It is you. Hank said, thank you. But what everyone, including Marcel, missed is it's not just a bicycle wheel on a chair. It is a bicycle fork and wheel attached to a chair, normally called a stool. It could be called the fork-spoked wheel on a stool. I said, uh-huh. Hank said, our propaganda, art. Our logo shirts wheeling around Moscow advertising our industrious everywhere. I said, you can't afford to change clothes, and Dr. Hammer already has logo shirt. Hank said, I don't need more than 2 pairs of jeans. We'll leave receipts with our logo on them everywhere. The fork shaped from a hammer and sickle will form half a tire on the completely spoked wheel. And I intervened, you are right. We cannot afford that. You owe us already. Hank said, we need these billboards. I'll fire anyone not wearing one. He pitched on adrenaline. We need them now. We'll sell shirts when they catch on. Then covering the country will be too visible to manipulate. Or function, I said. You're imagining yourself, Alexander the Great, waving troops ahead from the front. But take a closer look at your own contemporary example. No one is more visible than your hero Gorbachev, yet he's all tied up. What happened to being under radar? Hank said, whatever works, and shyness can be an excuse. I have to be flexible and work with what is. At a certain point, this country has to break open. We can't afford not to have a good campaign. People always need something genuine. Hammer's gimmick is polished, but they're his uniforms. Our image has something more to think about. Hank, I said, and Sergey smiled. But Hank continued, hopefully we'll pay before the copyright owners find out. We can get away with this for a while. It'll be a cute shirt. Sergey dropped his pen. Capitalist gamble, apparatus hope. Hank shrugged. Sergey said, Americans ignored law, while your courts are full of disagreements and more language than necessary. Hank grinned, but withheld whatever sarcastic remark he had as Leonid came in to train on the phone. So Hank took a lap by himself in the parking lot, then came back and sat on the floor to watch the phone with Leonid, as if something might happen while there was just one wrong number the rest of the day.